Hey, Macquarie College Primary School, my name's Brian Reed, and it's such an awesome privilege to be here with you guys today to share in your chapel time. Before I say anything else, I just want to ask you to bow your heads and have a prayer with me. So, dear Jesus, thank you so much for each of the students that are watching this and for the staff. And we just want to invite your presence to be with us today as we share in this time and as I share a little bit of my story with the Macquarie College student body and staff. So bless these guys today, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen. So guys, I want to tell you a little story. I want to tell you a little story about this object in my hand right here. This is just a little plastic elbow. It's a car part. So when I was about 21 years old, I had my first car. It was a Buick Skylark 82 Limited. I called it the Silver Bullet. It was a sweet car. Actually, it wasn't. It was kind of like an old-fashioned sort of not a very nice car, but it was mine, and I could get anywhere I wanted in it, and I loved that car. But one day I heard a funny noise coming from the engine, and it got really loud and really bad, and the car was running really bad, and I thought, what's going on? So I got out of the car, opened the bonnet, and I looked under the bonnet, and this part sat right about right there, but underneath, it would have been underneath this, but right there. And the part had completely disappeared off the car, and there was only a little bit of it left, kind of like a shard of it, like just shattered. And then there was a pipe over here that was supposed to be in it, but it was missing. All of it was missing. And so what was coming out of that hole in the top of my engine was oil. And the oil was shooting up onto the bonnet, and it was spraying down across my whole engine. So it was a really bad mess. And I knew I had to get it fixed straight away. And since I could still drive my car, I jumped in and I went to a place called Pull and Save. Now, you guys can see I'm standing here in a car park. There's quite a few cars here. It's a pretty decent sized car park, but I want you to imagine a car park with full of junked cars, full of old cars, the size of the grounds of your school. And that would probably be still not big enough. So I went to a place, this place is called Pull and Save, where there's so many cars that you can walk through there for hours and still not see them all. And these cars are junked cars from all over the place, and they line them up. And they line up all different types. So if you have a Jeep, you could literally go to the Jeep section and you'd see a whole row of Jeeps, like for a whole acre of just old junked out Jeeps. And so if you need a part for your car, you go there with some tools and you find your part. So I'd never been there before. I went with no tools, no overalls, in my decent clothes, and I started walking around at Pull and Save to find this little part. So can you imagine finding a part in a place that big, like this? So I started looking. First I tried to find my car, my Buick. Couldn't find it, but I found some cars that had the same engine as mine. So for 2 hours I looked and looked and looked for this little part, and I couldn't find it. So I prayed and I said, God, I need help finding this part. Help me find it. So I finally found some cars like mine, and I finally opened one bonnet after 2 hours, and there was the part in the car. It was still in the car, like in the engine, attached. So I was like, yes, I finally found the part. But I didn't have any tools. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? I don't have any tools. And so I saw a guy, an old guy with overalls, not too far away, and I went over to see him and I said, hey, can I borrow some pliers? So he, being a nice gentleman, rather than hand me a pair of pliers, he was like, oh, I'll help you out. And he came over to my engine, and he had the pair of pliers in his hand, and he said, what are you trying to do? I said, oh, I just need to pull that part out right there. So he took the pliers, he grabbed the part, and when he went to pull it out of the engine, it shattered. It broke in between, in the pliers, it broke. I watched it break. It's like my heart broke with this when it broke. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh, I've been looking for 2 hours. And right about the moment that this thing broke, it started raining. Like not just a little bit of rain, but we're talking like downpour raining. So this guy's like, oh, sorry, and off he goes. He walks off. So now I'm standing in absolute downpouring rain. There's mud forming all around me and rivers of water running through the cars. And I'm like, oh, man, what am I gonna do? I can't just keep driving around without this part. I'm putting oil all over my car. So I started to leave. I'm like, I'm out of here. I can't stay here. It's raining too hard. So I started to walk towards the entrance. And as I'm walking, I'm standing in the middle of the aisle between a whole bunch of cars. I'm standing there, and I just stopped, and I just said, God, help me. That's all I prayed. I remember saying that, God, help me. And I had a really clear thought in my head. And I can only tell you guys that this kind of thing has not happened to me very many times. It's only happened a few times in life where I feel like I had like an actual clear, like specific, like a thought in my mind. And the thought was, look under your foot. Look under your foot. Well, that's a weird thought, but I just thought, well, I'll look under my foot. So I took a step back under my foot, and when I looked under my foot, there in the ground, in the mud, like deep down buried in the mud, I could see a little bit of plastic. So I reached down and I began to dig in the mud, and there under my foot, in the mud, buried, was this exact part. I could not believe it. I was so shocked that this little tiny part was in the mud under my foot. And I was so shocked, but I was so excited at the same time, because God answered my prayer in a way that was so profound and so incredible that to this day, if I ever think, oh, I don't believe in God, all I have to do is think about this and be reminded that this happened to me, that this part, I found this part under my foot. But here's the thing. I don't know what you guys are thinking right now, but I know for me, I think sometimes, why is it that God answers a prayer about a little plastic car part? Why would God answer that prayer? But there's been other times in my life where I'm praying for things like way, way more significant than this. I'm asking God, I'm saying, God, please help me, like with my friend. My friend is so sick, and they're not doing well, or I'm praying for a family, maybe a family who's some people who's going through something really horrible, like maybe some parents that are struggling in their marriage, or there's just all kinds of things. And you guys, we all know right now, if we look at the world today, there's a lot of things going wrong. And maybe for each of you in your life, you guys could look at your own life and think, man, there's some stuff going on in my life that's really, really hard. I'm going through some tough stuff. Even you guys that are in kindy, like you guys that are really young, you've been going through some tough things. And so I wonder sometimes, why is it that God answers a prayer about something like this, but some of these other big prayers that I pray, why doesn't it seems like God doesn't answer, or it seems like he's silent? And I don't understand that sometimes. But when I think about it, you know, it says in the Bible, Jesus actually says in the Bible, he says, in this world, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble. And he says, in this world, you're going to fall into trials. And there's going to be hard things that happen. And here's the thing that I think and I believe. I believe that the reason why sometimes Jesus answers really what seemingly like insignificant prayers, like I've lost my keys, or just really small things, or like I'm feeling discouraged and a friend gives me a phone call and says, how you doing? The reason that I believe that God answers prayers like this is to say to me, Brian, I just want you to know that I am here. And just knowing that he is with me no matter what, that is just such an awesome thing to know. He's saying, hey, I'm here. And you know, when Jesus was on this earth, he said to us, he said, I will never leave you or forsake you. I am with you always. And so I think the reason that Jesus answers our little prayers like this sometimes is to say, hey, you know what? I'm with you no matter what. So no matter how big of a thing you're going through right now, whatever it is, even if it's just huge and you're praying and you're saying, God, please help me with this, and it seems like maybe God's not fixing the problem or things aren't necessarily getting better, it's little things like this that remind us that he actually is with us, that his promises are true. When he says, I am with you, he means it. So I want to tell you guys today that Jesus tells you right now, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I am with you always. So right now, you might be feeling a little bit lonely. You might be feeling a little bit discouraged about maybe something that's going on. Maybe you just watched the news last night and you're thinking, man, what's going on? I want you to know that Jesus is with you right now, that he will never leave you or forsake you, that he loves you with an everlasting love, and he will always be by your side through thick and thin. So when the really tough times come, he's going to be with you in the tough times. When the really great times come, he's there rejoicing with you, and he's dancing alongside you and singing with you when you're happy. And when you're feeling down, he's there holding your hand and holding you up, and he'll never ever leave you or forsake you. And that's what this reminds me of every time I look at it. So guys, I hope that was encouraging to you. I hope that was a blessing to you, and I hope you guys have an amazing day at Macquarie. And thanks so much for listening to my little message, guys. Take care.